Hello, and welcome to the Vicar's Watch Dibbly.
The podcast where three priests link our stories with those of a Reverend Geraldine Granger and other TV vicars. I'm Kate.
I'm Jenny.
And I'm Ruthie. This episode, we're talking about life at the moment, how things are going, and what summer looks like for clergy people, and also talking a little bit about friendship.
Well, hello everybody. It's lovely to see you.
Hello.
It's lovely to see you on such lovely, sunny... I can't put words together. I haven't been sleeping well this week because it's been too hot.
We are recording today, and it is the first day in a while that's actually been cool.
Oh, I know.
Cool being still in the 20s though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and so my window is slightly open, and so the sound quality might not be as good as possible, but I don't care. You can hear the cars going by next door because I don't want to melt. Thank you very much.
We need you here.
Yes.
Yes.
But-
So it's been very hot the past few days. But aside from that, what have we been loving this past week?
Not the heat.
Not the heat.
The redhead does not like the heat. What's something I've been loving this week? We go to a play group that happens at church on Tuesdays, me and my toddler, which was really lovely. It was the last one before summer kind of kicks off, and it'll be back in September. And so we had a little bit of a party. And there were balloons, and just watching small people being small people together, and, you know, falling out over the fire engine, but also just running around and chasing each other with balloons is adorable. So that was a lovely thing to do this week.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah. How about you, Kate? What have you been loving this week?
Well, aside from the heat, where I've mostly been staying inside and either doing gentle work or playing cozy life sim video games, I've been enjoying, when the temperature's allowed, taking my dog Millie out for walks around my villages. And it's been lovely discovering new parts of the villages that I didn't know about.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, it's been... You have to be careful with dogs, don't you? Especially because your dog's got a darker coat like mine. That actually, like, Tuesday she didn't go out at all because it was just way too hot for dogs. And yeah, but when I did let her out to go for a wee, she immediately lay down in the sunniest patch in the garden. And I'm like, Maggie, get back inside, fool. But yes,
They
taking
can't be
dogs
told.
for walks.
What about you, Jenny? What have you been loving this week?
Yeah, I've been loving a few things. So I think we're going to come on to this, but it is wedding season at the moment. So I'm seeing loads of couples, lots of wedding rehearsals and things, ceremonies. That's good fun. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. I love PCC. So this week I have been loving... Now, for our listeners, Kate is pulling a really scrunched up face. And I know it's unusual. And it's not even... I'm the chair. It's not even because I'm good. It's because they're good. My PCC love our community. They love the church. And they are forward thinkers. And I'm sat there like, I can't believe this is the conversations they're having. They're such doers. And they're really open. And I'm like... I sit there because I know what PCC is supposed to be like. For those outside the C of E, the PCC is the Parochial Church Council. They're the leadership of the church. It's usually between sort of 8 and 20 people, depending on the size of your church family or congregation. And they make the decisions about building and fabric and finance and worship. And, you know, it tends to be a meeting that goes on and on. Yet for some reason here, they are a blessing. And we moved some like massive things forward and just had so much to celebrate. So, gosh, that was a rant, but I love PCC.
Yeah.
It's
I think
great.
I need to make it clear. It's not that I don't like my PCCs. I love my
Oh, yeah, no,
PCCs
of course.
individually as people. It's just I have 5.
Oh,
and a
that
lot
does
of it
sound
is the
scary.
same sort of... There's always business and like admin stuff that has to be done. And so you can have these wonderful discussions, but when you have the same business times 5,
Yeah.
Like
That must be too much to be fair.
it's a lot.
I think I love my PCC because it's once every 2 months as well. Like if it was, because it is long, to be fair, we overran by 15 minutes, which is absolutely not okay in my books. But that did take us to 9:45 at night, which is really way too late.
No one can think of
And
that
did you
time.
start at classic church evening event time?
We start at 7:30, so we
Yeah.
usually do 2 hours. We do 7:30 till 9:30, but as I said, ran over. But we ran over with consent, which is only half as bad.
Yeah.
She said, trying to squeeze it in.
It's that classic trope, isn't it, that PCCs are terrible and boring.
Yeah.
But actually, they should be like yours, Jenny. They should be full of people like going for it and having a great time. And
Yes.
I've been in a variety of PCCs, and when you've got a bunch of people who are working together for the good of the church and the community, it's cracking.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had jelly babies at one, and that was just the best.
That is glorious, to be fair. To be fair, we always make sure we have someone who's dedicated to leading the prayer and the worship at the start, someone who's dedicated to tea and coffee, and someone who's dedicated to baking the cake. Like, before we even meet, those are the three things. It's like, who's praying, who's making the refreshments, okay, we're sorted, let's go.
I think that's a very good way to do it.
Definitely.
Definitely. Fab. So this week we're doing something a little bit different because, well, we just fancied doing it. All right, get off our backs. This is what we wanted to do, and if it's a total wreck, then never mind. We move on. But this week we thought we'd talk a little bit about Vicar of Dibley, and we're going to talk a bit about friendships, and especially Alice and Geraldine's friendship as a theme throughout the series. So we're going to talk about that, but we also just thought we'd give you a little insight into how summer looks for vicars. And it takes a different shape this season, and so we thought we'd talk a little bit about both of those. One of the big things that it takes over quite a lot of the summer, I think for lots of vicars, are weddings, which is...
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Which you've already hinted at, Jenny, because yeah, quite a lot of churches have a lot of weddings over the summer because people want to get married during the summer. And I mean, Jenny, you've got the double whammy of having your own wedding.
It's true. I'm planning everyone else's and my own.
How is wedding planning going for
It's
you,
very
but
good fun.
also for the numerous other people that you will marry? Not in a bigamy kind of way.
Thank you for clarifying. My own wedding planning is medium to not okay at the moment, but I've got some sessions planned in to hunker down and do some stuff. I'm also trying on my wedding dress for the first time later today. I share unto you and our beloved listeners.
Can you send us a photo, not to be shared with?
Yeah,
social media.
I'll send you like a little sneaky.
A little
hint.
sneaky.
But I want your jaw to drop on the day, so I don't want to give too many spoilers away.
Okay.
Anyway, lol. I also, on the matter of other people's weddings, things are going smoothly until I had a wedding last Saturday, and such a lovely couple who I adore and will always adore. But with 5 minutes to go before the service, their service was due to be live streamed and recorded by our very fancy tech camera that we got during COVID. Tech camera, live stream camera, you know what I mean. The Wi-Fi just cut out with 5 minutes to go, and they had a whole bunch of people waiting on the live stream, and then we couldn't get the live stream to connect. And then in a frantic panic, and I think we're going to come on to what it's like to wear clericals and be in summer and get a bit sweaty, because that was a combo that wasn't great to see. In a sweaty mess, in the space of 10 minutes, we managed to get online, but there was no sound. So then my epic verger, my A-star verger, literally held my phone camera, and from the very beginning of the bride's entrance to the very exit of the new Mr. and Mrs., he held up my phone and like walked around the church and like tried to capture every moment of their wedding. So they think, isn't that the cutest?
That's so
I was like,
lovely.
wow, he's properly earned his like verger fee that day. Oh my goodness. But yeah, that was a nightmare. So the Wi-Fi cut out, but then luckily, like I said, in a sweaty panic, we got it back. And there was my beloved verger filming the whole thing on my phone. So they definitely would have the recording, or it ended up with a couple of recordings for their wedding day then. Oh.
Oh,
I know.
that's good.
I also found out this couple call me Jenny from the block. they give me J-Lo. They give me J-Lo status because they think I'm cool. They told me that yesterday, and I was like, "You just made my day."
Oh, Jenny from the block.
Oh, Jenny from the Block. That's how I'm saved in their phone. Jenny from the Block.
That's lovely. That's
I was bowled over with joy. I love Jennifer Lopez as well, so it's like fun girl over here.
Yeah, you're definitely saved in my phone under your nickname, which I will not reveal on this podcast. Yeah, have you got lots of weddings this summer, Kate?
I haven't got lots of weddings, but I've definitely got more than I had as a curate. So I've got a wedding blessing this Saturday, which I'm really looking forward to. My first wedding adjacent event of my time as a priest in charge. The difference between a wedding blessing and a wedding, for those who don't know, is this couple are already legally married. They got married in Switzerland because that's actually where they live. But the groom's family are from one of my villages, and they wanted to have the wedding for the family in a church. But they're already married, so the wedding blessing is essentially it's a wedding, but with very key changes in the language.
Yeah.
Because it's not a wedding.
Because it's not a wedding. So things like, I have promised to, and I gave you this ring. Just very careful wording to say to make it clear that they are already married. But it's more fun because you get to be a bit more creative.
Wedding blessings are great. What ideally is if a couple, say, get married abroad, but they want to have a party or a celebration with their friends, a wedding blessing is perfect because then they come into church and they have this blessing service and then they get to have a party all over again.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
I've done a wedding blessing for a couple after they've been married. I think it was 25 years.
Oh,
and they wanted to do a blessing as a kind of reminder of those vows, and there'd been quite a traumatic event that had happened to them as a family, and so they wanted to do that, coming together and reconnecting, and the bloke had lost his wedding ring as part of this, and therefore had a new wedding ring that had been made from the gold of his parents' wedding rings after they'd passed on. And so that was a really special thing to do, and it was really nice doing it for an older couple. And they had their boys there, and it was really lovely because you shape it in a different way, and it's celebrating a relationship that's not not right at the beginning, because people are together for longer before they get married nowadays, but seeing a relationship like that's been well trodden in. It's like a comfy pair of slippers kind of relationship as opposed to your fancy high heels.
I like that.
Yeah, it was a really lovely service to do. They're great fun to do wedding blessings.
Yeah. My parents did a renewal of vows for one of their big anniversaries. And it was just really lovely. And my dad had lost or hadn't been wearing his wedding ring, so they got his wedding ring resized so that he would start wearing it, because I think it was too small initially or something. I don't know. But yeah, it was really lovely. But then I do have actually some proper weddings as well this summer. One I'm really excited about. One of my churches is a really small church, and it's adjacent to a farmyard. It's basically it's on the farm and it's surrounded by the farmland. And this couple, they are related to the people who run the farm, and so the whole wedding is on the farm essentially. So we're having the ceremony in the church, which is on the farm, and then we're walking across to a barn and having a party in the barn. And they talked about they might have tractor rides, and I'm invited. I'm invited to the party afterwards.
Yes,
that sounds amazing. Do you know what the big question in my head is? What on earth are you going to wear?
Wellies.
Like, how do you appropriately dress for all those amazing things?
I mean, if it's dry, then normal wedding attire, I guess.
Will you wear that under your cassock?
Oh, what am I going to wear?
Yeah.
I will wear decently smart clericals, which are appropriate to whatever the heat is.
Nice.
Because that's a big issue for us, isn't it, in all of this?
Big, yes.
The clothing that we wear was designed for men in the something century?
19th?
Well.
20th. I don't know.
I mean, vestments, like, the dog collar does go back. It has its origins. Oh, I don't know. I can't speak into this.
But
We're
I
not-
just remember when
our-
they used to wear that fluffy cloth thing here.
Yeah, but what
still
we
do.
would recognise as clerical wear now was developed for England, really, in the cold weather.
Yes,
Like,
but it's like Reformation, isn't it? We're talking Tudors here, aren't we? When it was first kind of kicked off as this is the gubbins that you wear. It has been adapted a bit, but
I mean,
Yeah.
robes have been around for a long time. Like, we're being quite fluffy here because there's such a history of vestments in Christianity and kind of across the world, so you can't really pin it down. But the point is that what we have and what we wear, the black shirts, kind of right up to your neck with your little white collar, and then your heavy robes, it's designed for colder weather. It's really interesting. I did some time out in Hong Kong, and they had special lightweight versions of robes. It was really weird because instead of a church being cold, they were really, really, really warm, and there were like fans in the ceiling to try and keep it cooler. It was really surreal, like a parallel universe.
yeah,
Wow.
opposite to how our churches normally are.
Yeah, because my cassock is wool blend, and
Oh
so on
my
a hot
goodness.
day, or if you, like I said, when you get wedding panic or something goes wrong and you start to get a bit hot, oh my goodness, do you? Like, this might be a too much information moment, but for some of my weddings this year, I felt my back cry. You know, a bead of sweat drops down, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
or like on your knee, you know, and you just feel it drop, and you're like, oh my goodness. But I haven't fainted yet. I'm always nervous on a hot day. Will I faint in all my vestments? But I haven't done yet.
Do you wear your black cassock?
No, not for weddings.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wear my white alb.
Your
Alb.
Alb.
My white
But
alb.
okay, here's a question: would you, with the couple's permission, go without robes if it was really, really hot? Like, so for the past couple of Sundays, with my congregation's permission, I haven't robed. I've just put a stole on over my summer dress.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not sure I would necessarily for weddings, unless it was like a couple that I knew really well and they didn't want robes and things like that. If it was kind of someone who wasn't connected to the church and wanted it, even if it was really hot, I think I would still wear them because the purpose of them is to make you anonymous in lots of ways, and by doing that, the photos, you want to focus on bride and groom,
Yeah.
don't you, and things like that, and you don't need the vicar at the back and that kind of thing. So I always try and duck out the way for those kind of first kiss photos and things,
Yeah.
because you don't need the vicar in the background, just like, hello, lovely.
Sharing a
But
lovely
weddings
moment. Here I
tend to
am.
have really set colour schemes as well.
Yeah,
So I think
you don't want to clash.
weddings and funerals are probably the ones where I would just bear with it
Yeah,
in my robes. Maybe just wear something very, very light underneath.
yeah. I did a wedding where they were very, very late. It was very hot. The bridesmaids were all melting, and I was pregnant, so I was an unhappy bunny that day, and just thinking, please, I need this wedding to be
you
over.
poor thing.
But actually, the church buildings themselves tend to be a lot cooler, don't they? So
Yeah,
I've seen
true.
lots of our kind of friends and cohort that we know posting online, like, come and hang out in the church because it is a lot colder. And one of our friends posted a photo of their child napping in church because it was the coolest place to be. And I thought that's genius. That's exactly why we have these big old buildings. And actually vicarages as well. All of
Yeah.
us live in vicarages, and for the most part they are quite cold.
Yeah.
And in summer that is a real blessing.
Yeah, definitely. We decided to have, I think we're going to have it at the vicarage anyway, but one of the meetings I had on one of the days that's particularly hot over this summer, everyone walked in, they were like, oh, it's really cold in here, it's really cold. And I was like, yes. And I think for my vicarage where I am, it's overshadowed by trees. So it's like I'm nestled in a little, I don't even know what, a little hole.
Cool box.
A little cool box, yeah. But I think, just think another thing on vestments, it's really funny you should raise this, because I was talking to some parishioners actually not long ago who were saying that actually for them, the vestments, so the robes, the cassocks, the surplice, even the stoles, they can be really distracting for them in worship, especially if people have belonged to a church where actually the vicar at the front is wearing a check shirt and chinos, for example. Like that's evangelical dress, you could argue. And we had this discussion with my parishioners. They were like, yeah. But actually, I was saying to them, I love not having to wake up and go, oh, I wonder what I should wear, and to look approachable yet also smart. And I know that that's a pressure on so many women in leadership roles.
Yes.
But I love vestments for that, and that's why I can't part with them. So I think if the couple, like you said, specifically said, please don't wear them, it's hard for us, then I would definitely consider it. But it is also part of the thing we've signed up for in terms of the canons as well. Like wearing our vestments is a part of the way we've promised to be ministers, which I don't know. I like to play by the rules.
Forgotten about that.
It always comes up.
I was reminded only recently.
It always comes up to be discussed in synod. Permission not to wear vestments. I mean, I generally will only not wear vestments if if it's reasonable, such as it's boiling hot, it's a Sunday service. Yeah. And my parishioners really don't mind. But things like funerals, weddings, when, like you said, you're kind of trying to disguise yourself, but also it means you don't have to worry about what you're wearing. You don't have to worry, do I look smart enough? Am what I'm wearing is what I'm wearing distracting? But also it means we can be so much more fun in what we wear. Otherwise, I'm wearing a dress, a clerical dress, which I've kind of adapted, which has cats printed all over it, and it's lovely.
Love that.
Just to go back a second to something that we're talking about, just to explain for those listening who might not quite understand what we've been talking about, under the canons or canon law is the law that we as clergy have to be under, which is woven into the law in England, so it has to be changed by the government. And synod is our kind of general governing body. It's just happened fairly recently. So general synod, people are elected onto it who are lay, so not ordained people, so priests, and then it's just priests, not deacons, isn't it? Or could you be a deacon?
Yeah, it's just a house of clergy. So
house of clergy. So you could be a priest or a deacon or whatever it is, and then house of bishops as well. And they kind of do our governing body stuff. So just to make that clear, what we're on about there.
Yeah, good synopsis.
The having fun with it and playing with what you wear has its pros and its cons in that it surprises people. So sometimes people don't have a clue what it means, and I think there's sometimes a danger that if it's too not classic clergy looking, like people don't recognise it and don't have a clue what you're wearing. But you can also be fun with stuff and wear different kind of prints and things like that. I tend to stick to black, mostly because I stick to black quite a lot in my clothing in general. But I think it's more recognisable. But I know that you, Kate, have lots of fun and exciting colours to wear, and that just suits you better than it would me.
I don't wear them as much now. I do have them and I wear them occasionally, but I do find myself more often than not, if I'm not wearing a dress with a clerical underneath, which I'm a clerical collar part will usually be black, or I've got a navy blue one as well if my dress is more blue than black. In terms of tops, I'll normally I tend to wear a lot more black now. Again, like you said, it's recognisable. And it sort of looks a bit smarter, even if you're wearing jeans and a clerical t-shirt.
So here's a question then, thinking about what you wear on top. Would you ever, say it was a really hot day, wear your clergy top, so like your clergy t-shirt or bib stock and top, so having a clerical collar on top, would you ever dare to pair it with like a mini dress or like a pair of hot pants?
Not if I was leading worship. I mean,
what about if you pop into the shops?
Okay, so the dress I'm wearing now, which you both can see the top of, but not full length, is an above the knee skirt. Normally, I would wear it with leggings or tights, but it's far too hot for that. I am wearing shorts underneath just for some invisible security. When I go out to walk my dog later, I'm not going to put tights on. And
No.
I don't mind showing my legs in this kind of informal setting. Like, again, I probably wouldn't lead. Well, that said, I did wear Okay, I'd be very cautious about wearing something that was too revealing.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I had this debate with myself the other day because I went to Cornwall, as I think I revealed a few weeks ago. I had a great time. And I was staying in the area of like Travone. But not far from Travone is a little place called Boobies Bay. And obviously, because, Boobies the bird,
Yes,
absolutely
of course.
beautiful little beast.
Oh,
anyway,
yes.
I bought a t-shirt that says on the back of it, so on the front it's like Surf Bay, and on the back it says Boobies Bay, and it's got like a picture, like a cartoon, like a really nice like image of Boobies Bay, which I love. Now I get that there's a little bit of could be seen as a bit cheeky, but I had this t-shirt on with my dog collar, and I was like, yeah, cool, ready to go. And do you know what? At the last minute I changed, because I was like, I can't wear a Boobies Bay t-shirt with dog collar. What, was I right to change, or is that overstepping it, do you think?
What would Geraldine
Would you wear
have
a
done?
Boobies Bay t-shirt?
What would Geraldine do?
Oh, she'd totally rock the Boobies Bay
Geraldine
t-shirt.
would rock it. She'd probably have it under like a waistcoat or a cardigan, and then she'd take it off like to reveal Boobies Bay.
Thank you, well done for finishing that sentence.
There's
I
the
mean,
episode,
in
isn't there,
both
coming
ways,
up
yeah.
of Alice's Hen Do, where she's got a t-shirt on which has got a bra on top, hasn't it?
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. They're sat there in with like fluffy headbands and then like that, the
Yeah.
bra t-shirt.
So
Okay, that makes me feel a bit better. Maybe I
think
will
it
be brave.
depends on your personality, and it depends how much confidence you have. So the reason it works for Geraldine Granger is she is so confident and she knows exactly who she is. Like, she has some fantastic fashion choices
Yeah.
throughout the show.
Yeah.
But she also really owns who she is aside from being a priest. And who she is aside from being a priest is someone who's got a little bit of a raunchy sense of humour. And
Yeah.
she knows what her body is like, and she's going to use that to her advantage, and celebrate who she is and not pretend that she's not a woman.
Yes.
And she has a sense of humour. Obviously, Dawn French is a fantastic comedian. And that's kind of part of the character. So, yeah, it's down to who you are and whether you can pull off. I suppose I can pull off slightly shorter skirts because I am a very short person. So, a short skirt on me doesn't look as short
That makes
as it does on
sense.
someone who's taller.
Yeah.
It's one of the
Because less
things
leg
that-
is showing because I don't have as much leg.
It's one of the things that riles me up the most about being a woman is the judgment about what we wear. Even aside from a clergy setting, but definitely in a clergy setting as well, of the, how you dress and how people perceive you is how people think they can act towards you because of that, and the amount of slut shaming and stuff that happens to women, and walking around here with the sun on, there's blokes wandering around with small shorts and no top on, and no one catcalls them and yells at them about stuff. So it's one of the things that really ticks me off is how women are only that. I'm getting cross, so I can't get my words out.
Yeah. But there's
women are
something
viewed
about
as
how-
objects, and so they're there
Yes.
to be dressed up and they're there to look pretty, and you've got to do these certain things. And I remember getting really cross at theological college about being told not to wear red lipstick because you
Yeah,
might
you
distract
said
men
this.
in worship.
We've mentioned
I
this.
can't remember if I've already said that.
Yeah,
in
we
this
have. We mentioned it in a previous
podcast
episode.
before, but that you wouldn't say that to a bloke. And and it ties in with all this worry of clericals that actually I think it's a lot easier for male presenting people to dress because you wear a clergy shirt and you wear trousers, and that's it. There is a bit of sway with that, and if you're wearing vestments on top of that, so you've got that as well. But for women, you get dressed on a Sunday and go, right, how do I look fun and like me, but actually people are going to take me seriously because I'm a young woman? How am I going to make sure that people aren't just checking out my legs as part of this?
Yeah.
What do I feel comfortable wearing? If I've got a microphone pack, I need to wear something that I can attach that to. Like all of these stuff comes up, and it makes me cross. And I will stop ranting for a moment now.
Well, no, you're right.
Loved it.
Yeah, exactly. You're perfectly right. And the thing is, male presenting clergy can get away with pretty much wearing the same thing every day.
Every Sunday as well.
And no one will bat an eyelid. Like, if I think about my dad's workwear wardrobe when he was a parish priest, it's just black shirts, black trousers, black socks, black shoes, maybe a black jumper, you know, or a suit jacket, right? He had different coloured suit jackets for the occasion. You know, if it's a garden party, you wear your cream jacket, whatever. So that's actually quite a small modular wardrobe, a limited wardrobe. The thing about our society is women and female presenting people are expected to wear something different and look different pretty much every day.
Yeah.
If you're wearing the same outfit multiple days in a row, people will notice, or it feels like people kind of is less acceptable. So a female presenting wardrobe is larger, and also because if you wear dresses, you know, I heard someone when I was talking about the price of a clerical dress from a clergy wear supplier is maybe £80 if you're getting it from a cheaper place, right? Yeah. And I was really upset about this, about how expensive a professionally made dress is for clerical wear. And someone saying, well, but suits are also, you know, more expensive. But the thing about suits is you can wear them many different ways.
I think the thing is that with women's wear, there is a lot of choice. So people notice what you choose. I think that's the thing. And I think they notice if you choose a very bold makeup look or a particular nail colour or a length or, again, a colour or a cut. And I think that's the thing that can sometimes get a bit tricky, especially in summer. But I think we've come to a good place. I think we've talked through, because obviously there are wise choices to make, and obviously being sensible and being a human being and taking into account others is a really important part of how we dress and how we remain professional, and yet also being reasonable and keeping cool.
Yes, definitely.
I've definitely been put off wearing certain clothing outfits because of comments made at church about certain things or hairstyles or whatever it is. So I had my hair in plaits once at church, and someone came along and pulled it and thought, that's just not okay, and never wore plaits again.
Really?
At church.
Oh,
yeah.
you.
Because I just thought, I don't need that, thank you very much.
It's really difficult because on one hand we could go on a full-on feminist rant about how as women we are intruders into a male space as female clergy. That's how society structures it, right? So anything we do is more noticeable because we are the quote-unquote outsiders, right? On the other hand, I suppose for me, because I know I look really young, I'm just so used to people commenting about that and commenting about how I look by saying, oh, you only look 12. Are you old enough to be a priest? Are you one of the youth group? Yeah. I thought you were one of the children.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so I'm so used to like people talking about that, and I know pretty much anything I wear is not going to make me look older in their eyes. I can do stuff that will make me look younger, like if I put my hair in pigtails.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, there's nothing I can wear that will make myself look older. So maybe that means I'm just more gung-ho about, I'm going to wear what I want to wear.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to make any difference.
I have to say, having said all that, I did have my hair in plaits again the other day, and I got ID'd. And I was very pleased.
That's a good story to
I'm
balance it out.
31. Thank you very much.
Well, shall we move on? I think we could talk about this a lot. Let's
Yeah,
think
true.
about. Okay, I want to talk about summer again, and what are some classic vicary things for summer that we see Geraldine doing and that we're getting up to at the moment. We've already talked about weddings, and the reason we're talking about that at the moment is with the season of Vicar of Dibley that we're looking at, it's all about Alice and Hugo's wedding. But what other summery things has Geraldine been up to and that we're up to? I think there's a Summer Fete that we saw.
Yeah, that's a very classic church. Let's get together and have a summer fete kind of thing. Have you both got one of those coming up?
Yes, we do.
We had one a few weeks. We had one like a month ago, but actually no. We were gonna have a big church family picnic, but it got cancelled because it was too hot. But it's rescheduled. We've got a big church family clean. Does that count? No, we don't really have another fete. We had a carnival, but we don't have a church fete. Sorry, guys.
We have a summer fair coming up, and something which apparently is local to this area, which I love. There's duck races.
Oh, nice.
So I've got
Rubber or real?
rubber ducks. I've
Oh
got
my gosh, both
a
would
rubber
be
duck
amazing.
race in one of my parishes in September.
So cool. I might come for that.
Yeah. I can't remember if it's September or October, but anyway, that's something that's in my diary. I'm so
That's
looking
brilliant.
forward to. Some other places nearby are doing them sooner, which is why I'm classing it as a summer activity.
Yeah. I think where we are here in Rotherham, there's a place called Clifton Park nearby, which has big open space and there's often things going on there. So last weekend or was it the weekend before, they had Women of the World Festival, which normally happens in London, but I don't know if they just do pop-ups in different places. And so there were people speaking on topics that are important to women, and there were art installations and kind of different stalls where people were selling stuff from like female-owned businesses or charities that are particularly focused on women. And there was also a stage with a band, so we went and saw a gothic folk rock band called the Mother of Crows, which was
Wow.
amazing. It was too
Sounds
hot.
good.
I would have loved to have stayed longer, but I was there with my partner and my 2-year-old watching this goth folk band
Wow.
on stage in this heat, introducing every song with "This song's about pain and suffering," and which was just amazing. But coming back to what I was actually going to talk about is that there's lots of those kind of festivals that happen in the parish that I live in, and so kind of doing one in church doesn't quite make sense in lots of different ways, but they do other things. So one of the big things that happens in the church I go to is a summer musical where they invite young people who have just broken up from school and stuff like that to come, and over the course of the week they prep and do a musical, which
Oh,
they
wow.
perform
So
at the end of
cool.
the weekend. So they've done like Godspell and other things like that. They're doing it slightly different this year, but that's one of the big summer things that happens here. And we also have coming up this weekend a vicarage garden party, which is a very classic vicarage thing to do. And so I spent a large part of yesterday trying to make my garden slightly more tamed. Oh, that sounds like a euphemism.
That's so cool,
That's
though.
so cool.
In order that it's not completely
I love that.
embarrassing when people come over and see the large amount of ivy that's just wild in this garden. So that's a classic vicarage thing that we're doing this summer.
Have
love
you
that.
been doing a lot of baking? I also associate vicarages and garden parties in the summer with baking. Lots and lots of baking.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I fail. I fall down here. I'm not really a baker, and I'm actually not very confident host. I don't like hosting people. I don't like hosting parties. I don't know how to do it well. And my garden is there is a team from church who very kindly come down and hack it back like a few times a year, and then me and Chris do the like lawn mowing. When I say me and Chris, I just mean Chris. Just to use the lawn mowing. But I that sort of stuff really scares me. I've never done a vicarage tea party sort of thing. I've got a feeling my parish would absolutely love it, but I haven't yet ventured there. Do you think I should? I feel like I should.
Yeah, I really want to do kind of drinks in the garden, barbecue at some point. I'm still in the process of taming the vicarage garden with the help of
Your garden's lovely.
I do. I've got a gardener who helps. My mum helps as well. It is extensive, my grounds.
That's great, to be fair. If you've got a big garden and everyone can just fall in, can't they?
That's the advantage of vicarages, that we have these big houses and gardens, which I wouldn't be able to afford on what we normally own and that kind of thing. And I always saw the kind of purpose of that was to do the hosting and hospitality thing, which is something that I love doing, and just having people around and, you know, quickly running around with the Hoover, and the dog's like, oh, who's coming to visit? You've actually pulled the Hoover out. But do it as a bring and share, Jenny. The classic Church of England thing. People are amazingly generous and just say that what we're doing is saying, here's 4 hours. There'll be some chairs, there'll be stuff to do, just come and hang out and get to know each other. And it's
really lovely.
But your garden's slightly odd in that it kind of wraps around the whole house, so you haven't got a big patch like me and Kate have got in our gardens.
No, there's kind of like little avenues and pathways. It's a great garden for fairies, because there's loads of little hideaways and cubby holes, but for tiny humans, for children, maybe not. Well, maybe for children to hide in, kind of good, but there's not a patch for people to congregate. There's lots of things around, which is slightly difficult. But...
You know what you should do, which is another classic church event system: open gardens in the parish. So yours is one of a few, and people can travel around, and then you play to the strengths of your garden and of your home. And I mean, most vicarages are designed for entertaining, and the garden is part of that. You know, there's often, pretty much every vicarage I've lived in, there's been an entertaining room that opens out onto the garden, and it's been a kind of normal, you have that dual space. But for you could say, here's, you know, I've hidden a fairy trail.
And, that's what I was going to say.
And you can discover it. And one of your parishioners' houses is the tea party.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Garden.
You know what I could do? I haven't told you, the lovely listeners, yet. I mean, I've got a big old drive. I could do tea party in the front, fun adventure trail in the back.
like a church event mullet.
2023, your vicar is opening up her grounds.
Yes. And you know what? It doesn't matter if your garden's a bit messy. I mean, my mum, vicar's wife, and vicar's daughter, bless her, a vicar's mother, used to stress so much about the garden being perfect.
Oh, I do, yeah.
And to be honest, I think she stresses about my garden not being perfect either.
Oh.
Especially when we did open garden things. But you know what? It's a wild garden for the wildlife and the bees.
Yes.
That's what you say.
Yeah,
Let them roam.
I worry slightly about dog poo. I will be going around searching for dog poo, which is what you might need to do if you do a wild trail in Hills, Jenny. Because Henry's got his little laps, hasn't he?
He absolutely does. He makes like Henry's own race tracks, which my partner Chris has mowed into to make sure we keep some patches wild and some patches clean for Henry to run through it.
That's so sweet.
But, like you said, I don't want little ones doing the trail, going in and out the bushes, and you know.
Mummy, what's this?
Exactly.
Pokes it.
No. Stepping in toffees. No, thank you.
But I mean, that's something that we really miss from the Vicar of Dibley. I don't think we ever actually see that kind of classic vicarage garden part. In fact, we see very little of St Barnabas Vicarage. We see the living room and the kitchen and the
doorway.
Porch. Yeah, the doorway. Yeah, we know the stairs that go upstairs.
The cupboard to Narnia.
The cupboard to Narnia. And we see a little bit of a front garden, which is quite small. But we don't see...
Maybe she doesn't have one. Maybe it's like one of those little rural cottages. Because to be fair, the house I live in, the vicarage I live in, is next door to the old vicarage, which does have substantial gardenage for garden parties. Maybe in Geraldine's diocese, they sold off the traditional older vicarage and moved her into a cute cottage.
But
And she lost the garden.
vicarages are meant to be
Is
a
that,
certain...
am I overthinking this?
Vicarages... No, we're overthinking it, but that's what we do.
Yeah.
Vicarages are meant to be a certain size
Yeah.
because of entertaining, because of family, etc.
Hosting the bishop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's supposed to have...
Scary.
You're supposed to be in at least a 3-bedroom property, excluding certain specific situations.
Yeah,
Such as
like
I think
you're in London.
Yeah, like you're in London.
Yeah.
Most vicarages are fairly big, which is really can be frustrating because then everyone assumes that you're quite rich. Growing up, that was a huge problem. Like, all my school friends thought I was really rich, but I wasn't.
no.
I just lived in a big house. But
I was going to say, some of our listeners going to be like, oh no, poor you, had to live in a big house.
I know. Oh
No.
no.
White girls.
We're lucky and we're comfortable, but we're
Yeah.
not rolling in money.
Yeah.
My point is that some vicarages, I think particularly in rural areas, are so big. Some of the old vicarages in my patch, so I have 5 parishes, each used to have their own vicarage. The house I'm in was built in the 50s, maybe 60s, kind of turn of that decade. And it's quite big, but I've seen some of the old properties, which used to be the vicarage, and my goodness, are they fancy.
Huge.
Yeah,
They-
beautiful.
I mean,
Double
they've all been
lounges.
done up by private homeowners now, so
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been in that condition had I been put into them. But big houses.
Yeah. And it is such a privilege to have these kind of places, but it is difficult when you live in a parish that is in a more deprived area. And I think that's one of the things that I feel a little bit nervous of, is that actually the parish that we live in on the whole is quite deprived, whereas the street we live in is very nice and quite fancy. And so there's that real difficulty of living in a place and working with people who are living in very different situations to us. So like a vicarage garden party, flipping it, that's quite a middle class fancy thing that we're talking about, pims and croquet on the lawn kind of thing. But actually, that's not the reality for lots of people. So, you know, we might have pims and croquet on the lawn, but we're also probably going to have a lot of chalk ices.
Yeah,
I love that.
And I know Jenny can tell us about this, spending time in the pub as well.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. If you're having people over to your house, it's like, this isn't just vicar and parishioners. I find it a very intimate thing to host and to have people over. And also, I think we've been thinking about this because of Alice and Geraldine's relationship. The joy of making friends with people and, like you say, going to the pub with people in your parish who you connect with on a level where you're like, oh, you're actually a real friend, and you don't mind me being vulnerable and talking about how life actually is and giggling together, and vice versa. And I think that's something really precious. And you're right. So I did message Kate and Ruthie earlier this week because I found myself having one of the best evenings of my life with one of my parishioners who's now a friend. We call each other a lady friends. And we went out on a nice summery evening. And I guess my new favourite vicar activity is to go to the pub. And we thought we were just going to have a little glass of wine each, but we realised it would be better cost-wise to get a bottle. So we went for that quite innocently. I loved it. And it came in its own bucket of ice, which we cuddled because it was so hot outside. And just had the most wonderful evening, just like connecting as two humans. Like, it didn't matter that I was the vicar. Does that make sense? It didn't matter that.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I said to her, and I'll say to you that in the back of your mind, you're also like, I was aware that I was sat outside talking to her as if she was a bestie I've known for years. But on the next door table, there could be someone who'd come to me in 6 months' time because, they'd had a bereavement or they wanted to get married or, they wanted to find out more about who Jesus was. And I'm like, it's so funny. You've got to be all things at all the same time. But it's like the fullness of Jenny is still a vicar, but also still a friend who giggles about, giggles and drinks wine, but also is like a leader in her church. Like, isn't it so? It's all the hats, but yeah, I'm loving finding that blend, that Alice and Geraldine blend with people in my parish, especially the other young women, other young adults I just connect with. It's a gift actually, because it's been a real blessing.
Something when there's people who are like you in your parish, you do naturally gravitate towards them in a way that you probably don't get as close to some of the other people in your parish. I don't have that many people in my congregations who are as young as me or who share my interests. I think a lot of my congregation members kind of see me a bit as a granddaughter, maybe. That's the dynamic. I did try to awkwardly make friends with a wedding couple who I thought we had loads in common with, but that didn't
work out.
I kind of tried to suggest that we could have a board games evening, and that didn't work. And partly though, that's me. I am an introvert, and I find making the first move to make friends quite difficult.
Yeah.
I have deep friendships, but a small number.
It's I think we've talked about it before on this podcast, but the boundaries that we set as clergy, we'll all set different kind of boundaries, and we see with Geraldine and her kind of the parish council, it's a lot more blurred in lots of ways that I think that we would do, because I know I definitely have been burnt before, where you think someone's more of a friend than a parishioner, and then actually things have gone back the other way. And there's the challenge as well, like if you're sat in the pub having a drink with someone from church, and then someone else appears at the door also from church, like, oh, they're hobnobbing the vicar.
That's true. Yeah, it's always
is that a little secret gang, and how much do you reveal about what's going on, and that line between being open and being able to talk to people, and people feeling that they can talk to you about their own stuff because you're being open with yours, and all this kind of thing. There's a weird line there between that and closing off completely. I don't think we can close off completely and just not relate to people in our parish and churches at all. But
it's careful opening up, revealing just the right amount, but not too much. Because if you reveal too much, something might suddenly flip, or and suddenly people feel like you aren't being professional, or like you revealed something inappropriate about yourself, or you're not respecting them.
Definitely.
So it's really frustrating when you've let your guard down and you've been more informal because you thought, I can get away with this. And then what comes back is someone has experienced that situation as a formal situation, and they've got really annoyed and upset because they felt like you didn't address what was happening properly. So it's interesting if we look at Geraldine and Alice's relationship, because as much as we talk about how close they are, that really varies episode to episode. And one thing I've been wanting to point out is how inconsistent their relationship is. Sometimes it's really affectionate and really gentle. Sometimes Geraldine can be quite prickly and almost cruel, and almost looking down on Alice, the way that she'll talk about Alice. And then sometimes it's almost professional. So you wonder how much of it is Alice is being really open and laid back, and how much of it. But then Alice has times where she receives something Geraldine has said and takes it too seriously, as the vicar has said.
Yeah, it's tough. I get Geraldine's always in a kind of caretaker relationship with Alice, which I find interesting. But she does strike me as getting that balance quite well. And I know we've said there are occasionally some things she says, we're like, ooh, that's really cutting, and we'd never obviously treat other people like that. Oh gosh, I'd forgotten that boundary line. Yeah, that was definitely too far. That was
her romantic
scale banter, but
her romantic relation, how she relates romantically to people she comes in contact with, is a whole different beast. We
will come on to unpack that more, won't we?
Yeah,
as well?
we will do.
Yeah.
Well, I think when we get to Simon we meet him at the end of this series.
We need to take a deep breath here.
And how she projects onto him, and we've already had Tristan, and the way that she had that huge crush but was quite innocent. There's a special episode which I think we skipped. I think it was Christmas lunch incident. Actually, he makes an appearance at.
Yes.
Is it?
Does he?
So we may not talk about Tristan's big moment.
It is Christmas time, yeah.
It's one of the 2 Christmas episodes.
Mm.
But anyway, I think we'll get to how Geraldine projects, and also then how the fallout of Geraldine's relationship with Simon is also, there's a whole episode about how badly she takes it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to go through those in a bit more detail. But I think coming back to the friendships and boundaries, I think it is for everybody to discern with their, in their case by case situation. I think that's important. And I think it's important to, think on boundaries pertaining to things like gender as well, and professionalism, age, obviously really important, stage of life. But what a massive blessing is it that we have people that God puts in our way to just keep us sane in our ministry. And for a season of my life, it was the girls I played rugby with. And when I say played rugby, I ran around and they did actual rugby training. But they were like, oh my gosh, young people I can connect with. And then as young people have come into the church, it's like, oh yes, people who I can talk to about life and who can, you can let your hair down. And I think whoever those people are, whether it's hobby based or ministry based or, connecting with, just making time to connect with people, making sure friendships stay, oh my goodness, up in the priorities, I think is so important.
Even if it means contriving a whole podcast just so that you find yourself talking to 2 of your best
just
friends
so you can
every
say,
week or so.
I am a vicar and I like to have wines in the pub with my parishioner friends.
I was going to say, just so that you can actually spend regular time with 2 of your best friends.
Yeah, as well, yeah.
Awkward.
All of the above.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, that as well. It is, it's so important. Yeah, life is hard. Getting everything in order is tough, but that's why I guess we get a few years to have a go. Coming back to clericals very briefly, I'm wearing a shirt for the first time in a long time, and I feel like I'm wrapped in a little bit of plastic, but I just wanted to see if people can hear it. This is me and my shirt. Can you hear that? That's just literally me,
yeah, that's
it.
clerical shirt.
This is my
ASMR.
arm on my chest sound. Can you hear that?
I mean, yes, but only because you're
giving off.
But only because you're right up next to a podcasting microphone.
Okay. I'm gonna walk around in it today and see if I feel crunchy or not.
You'll notice it more than anyone else, and frankly, it's humid enough that your shirt will get soggy. What I mean is, it will probably soften up and won't make as much noise.
I'm sure it will. I feel like I'm in a Mac at the moment, but I'm sure it'll get better.
We had a whole conversation before recording about some alternative options for clerical shirts when you want to be smarter.
Yep, and how to keep cool.
Yeah.
Anyway.
To finish off this episode then, shall we chat about one thing that we're looking forward to over the summer outside of work stuff? What's something fun that not that work isn't fun at times, what's something that we're really looking forward to doing over the summer?
I'll begin. So I am about to have 2 weeks-ish of holiday, slightly under 2 weeks, and I'm not going away because, frankly, I can't afford it right now, and I'm settling in a new dog. But I'm hoping to take a few day trips out to explore my new part of the country that I'm living in, and maybe pop over to Wales. Explore Ross-on-Wye, maybe Hay-on-Wye. I have been to Hay-on-Wye before. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hopefully have a few little day trips to explore where I'm living now.
Oh, I love that. It's good to make time for that.
That's really good. How about you, Jenny?
Well, I'm getting married later this year, so I feel like that's my big one. But if I was going to choose, everyone knows that already, so I'm going to choose a slightly different one, which is maybe not exciting, but I cannot wait because if truth be told, and I am a bit ashamed about this, I haven't done this thing for a while, and I wish that I made time for it every year. And that is to spend 3 nights, 4 days away on retreat. I'm going into silence to withdraw from everything and to just be like, hello, God. Here I am, oh my goodness, about to step into a new season of my life. And so yeah, I'm heading back up to a retreat house called Shepherd's Dean. Now, Ruthie and Kate, you'll remember this because it's where we went for our Leavers retreat. Just before we left our vicar school and became ordained, we went there. And as I enter into a new season of life in terms of becoming married and kind of working out what that looks like in, you know, the years to come, I wanted to go back there and sort of, I don't know, just connect. That sort of feels like a good place for me to like launch from. So I'm really excited to go back and have those lovely memories of all the walks we had, the giggles we had, the times where we laughed and we should have been in silence, and just the general like amazing times we had with our cohort before that big season change. So yeah, really looking forward to going on retreat into silence, and just properly just spending time with God, and like that's focused really. Looking forward to that.
Well, I believe I have a very lovely photo of you from that particular retreat, looking like a sloth lying on
a tree.
On a tree. Yeah.
And I've got you
if I
hugging
can
the
find
tree
that,
as well.
That could be the social for this week. We'll find Jenny's sloth
that.
picture.
And I'm sure I've got one of you hugging a tree in a green jumper. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that walk. We took wellies. I must take wellies.
Must take wellies.
How about you,
Very
Ruthie?
important. Something I'm looking forward to over this summer is I'm doing the same as Kate in that I'm having time off, but we're not going anywhere. We'll hopefully go see parents and things like that over the time. But our son is still going to nursery over summer, so we're still paying for those sessions. So actually, there'll be a couple of days each week on our holiday where Ben will be in nursery, and so it'll just be me and my partner, so we can just do something,
nice.
just the two of us, which sounds very selfish, but actually is very important.
Oh my goodness.
So important.
Doesn't sound selfish to me. Sounds,
which it'll be really lovely to do that, so I'm really looking forward to that.
And what will be your favourite thing to do with just the time with the two of you? Have you even thought about what you'll do, or is it like, oh my gosh, what do we do? There's so much choice.
I don't think that's appropriate to put on the podcast.
Shut that right down.
No, that won't probably be happening.
Yeah. Just please chop me out at the end. Chop me in my outrageous question out there.
So we hope you all are having a really lovely summer so far, that you're coping with the heat wherever you might be, and that during this time you get some time to rest and relax and have a bit of a break, and possibly during that time watch some classic episodes of The Vicar of Dibley.
Yeah.
Yes.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Vicar's Watch Dibley. Thank you to Toby for editing our ramblings.
Any views expressed in this podcast are our own and don't necessarily represent those of the Church of England or any other organisations with which we are affiliated.
And as always, bless you for listening.
Who was the fastest runner in the Bible?
I feel like I could get this one.
The fastest
Adam, because he was first in the human race. Yeah, it's not great.
It's quite good. I am going to add that to my toolbox. I'm not going to lie. But it's a groaner. It's a groaner.